was a fun-filled, action-class sporting event mania where the Cowboys got shut down yet again. That's kind of hard to believe. The San Francisco 49ers move on up. And let me tell you something. There's a lot of very hurt and very happy woke people about that. But in talking about sports, yeah, 49ers, San Francisco, pretty
Anyways,
woke, pretty bad.
I'm not going there because you and sports
Oh,
are.
no, David, if you let me finish, I'm bringing up politics and
Okay.
sports. And I'm trying
Okay.
to draw a circle around the two topics. There's a gentleman by the name of Stephen A. Smith, an ESPN journalist, who actually used to be on Fox News. I don't know if that's on his illustrious resume. Who has a belief. He's 55 years old. He's a Bronx, New York guy. He's a guy who was in the Fashion Institute of Technology, so he's a little artsy-fartsy in him. Came out of the woodwork, blasting, the media. Why are we holding people at certain regards and others at not the same regards? Again, Dave, not want to give away your whole talk here.
Right.
But again, just touch on it. So, here's a guy, a woke ESPN reporter who just doesn't get it. David, what do you got?
Okay, well, let's backtrack here as my friend goes on, because unfortunately his exposure to sports is somewhat limited since his swimming career. And the truth is that I'm a big fan of sports. I love it. I adore it. It's my passion in terms of everything outside of really what I do. I enjoy it. I consume it. I play it. It's all great. What I don't want to hear when I'm playing sports or when I'm watching sports is some athlete being asked a question about politics. And I'm sick and tired when coach of the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr, former Chicago Bull, was asked, and he had to comment about his hate for Donald Trump. I hated when I heard LeBron James being asked about his love affair for the Clintons, and he had the mic to talk about and to educate, brainwash, whatever word you want to use, the youth of today, the people that he's influencing, the millions and millions and millions of people that he influences on a daily basis. However, sports, unfortunately, to my chagrin, has had an impact. I shouldn't say much to my chagrin. In reality, sports has had an impact. Okay, Jackie Robinson was the first black athlete to play baseball. In Montreal first, by the way, and then for the Brooklyn Dodgers. We see that in the 1968 Olympics, we saw the protests. We understand that, Muhammad Ali didn't want to go to Vietnam. We see that athletes can get involved in politics. Now, Stephen A. Smith, you call him a woke reporter. I call him a blustering idiot. At times, he shoots his mouth off like he has to embarrass people. He has to show that he's super knowledgeable. When I was in media, I remember the editor of my paper where I was at told me, we write the stories in media across the board at a grade 9 level, if not lower, because we don't want to hurt and embarrass the people reading and consuming the news. Well, Mr. Smith has to speak with multiple syllables and uses words like plethora of ideas, and he likes to be blustering. So let me tell you, when I say that, when I hear his voice, I cringe. Now, he was interviewed about his new book, and I hate to say it, but I have to agree with Stephen A. Smith. Athletes do have a place in politics, and athletes can get involved in politics. The problem is twofold. One, the people standing up there talking, and he said it, have no clue what they're talking about. And unfortunately, there should be some sort of disclaimer on the screen. This is a moron athlete who doesn't know, has never gotten informed. And he says, listen, they should be informed. But the other part that he said, which I found very interesting, Phil Mickelson, Greg Norman really took off with this splinter golf tournament instead of the PGA Tour, which is loved in North America. They splintered off with Saudi Arabia to create the Live Tour. Now, if you ever hear any of the comments, Stuart, about the Live Tour, it's only about the fact that they're taking terrorists' money. They killed the former journalist Jamal Khashoggi, and it's blood money. And how dare Phil Mickelson take blood money? Now, I find that very interesting in today's world as Joe Biden's documents are being, discovered. Hunter Biden's laptop is stinky poo all across the board. But Stephen A. Smith brought up a point that why are athletes held in higher regard than government officials? Stuart, I agree with Stephen A. Smith, which is rare for me. But what do you think about it? Should athletes be involved in sports, and should they be held in this regard?
Well, all right. This is like a real fun-filled question. When you talk about sports and you talk about politics, the first guy that comes on to my mind isn't Stephen A. Smith, it's Dennis Rodman, right? Let's talk about the most illustrious basketball player of our modern era who got involved in politics in an international tidal wave, right? Dennis Rodman goes to North Korea. I think he went twice, actually, and played and puddle jumped with Kang Gang Gong. All right, now, let's take this a step further. There's a guy named Enes Kanter. He's like the first guy, in my opinion, who spoke out against China. Where you
Turkey. He was hardcore on Turkey first. He then criticized the league and others for not criticizing China, but he has been very much against the President Erdogan, hardcore, where his life is now, there is a fatwa or a bounty on his head of $500,000. Just to give you an idea about Enes Kanter and what he's done. And he's put his family in Turkey in jeopardy because he voiced his opposition to President Erdogan.
Okay, a little bit more information than I actually had at my fingertips, but thank you for giving me the facts. But you hear silence from LeBron James. But on the same token, you get these celebrities who think they're political, wonderful people like Barbra Streisand, like Madonna, like Bono, all these super glam people who want to put their 2 cents in. And you know what, David? They have every right to do so. Everyone has the right to speak freely about whatever the hell they want to speak about. However, with that, I'm telling you, that's their right. With that, they also have the right on paying the price for that opinion, and also to pay the price for the slanderous views that some people have, and where the media falls short. Not the NBA player, not the NFL player, not the NHL. The media falls short on following through with equal justice for all. They like to take a Hunter Biden's laptop and show his crazy pictures, right? Or did they? I only know one network that showed him with the hookers. Well, probably, possibly were hookers. We really don't know. They haven't made any other newspapers, or maybe some black and whites out there, pictures on them. But again, you have some people that are given a pass, other people's that are eviscerated. And you're right, Enes Kanter should not have a bounty on his head, but at least it's only $500,000. What real terrorist is going to do something for $500,000? No. They want $500 million. He's not worth that much money. It's more.
But the question is, okay, the athletes have a microphone shoved in their faces every day, every whatever. Okay, should they be expressing themselves? And should they be challenged, or should there be some sort of education? And then again, who controls the education?
Well, they've got press people, they got marketing people. They're getting little things pecking in their ear that gets them to get motivated, which are probably 1/3 of the facts for most players. Not all players. There's some players out there that are brilliant minds and well-educated and articulate themselves. But unfortunately, most of the really bright ones do what's really smart. They keep their mouths shut. They don't give their public statements. You know what? It used to be in Hollywood, if you said you're a Republican, you're no longer in Hollywood. That's the old age adage. So if you're going to say something that the left doesn't seem as very popular, you're outed. You're outed.
But you're still, you're right in a generic form. But here was the second part of his statement. What about Phil Mickelson, and there are countless other golfers who have left the PGA Tour to go and to become golfers on the LIV Tour. that they're taking this Saudi money that they call blood money. And there's the media, you use the word eviscerated. The media have eviscerated every
Well,
single one of
The PGA, like the NFL, is basically an army, right? The NFL, PGA are very similar. They are the only controlling major syndicate of that sport. And the NFL does everything to dominate, and so will the PGA. They will fight, they will put proxies up, they will use whatever they can at their fingertips to discredit and destroy
yeah, but the
live.
question, no, but Stuart, the question is, but the question is this: the media, the sports media, which is supposed to be reporting about statistics, games, replays, yesterday, what happened on the field, on whatever, instead has given the microphone to these commissioners to pontificate their political views and eviscerate, you use that word, the athletes that are going there. But the media doesn't eviscerate the leaders of our countries for dealing in blood money.
Well, that's what I basically started off. Like, the media is the culpable people in this whole story. The media is the one that empowers them and also doesn't double check them. Look, this is just what I call, one-sided woke media. And that's just the way it's been and the way it's going to continue to be.
You know what? But Stuart, I just think that it's fascinating. But it's not just the media; it's the people involved as well. The people who read it and consume it, social media. If you look at the comments on social media, how they ripped Phil Mickelson, how they've ripped other athletes. It's a very interesting thing, and is how, for example, when we're talking about holding people accountable, Tiger Woods has stayed away from sharing his politics. He played golf with Donald Trump. He got nailed. And people are like, what do you do? And he's like, guys, my politics, my politics. He, by playing on the PGA Tour, changed the paradigm, just like Michael Jordan changed the paradigm in the NBA at one point. 20 odd years later, 15 odd year, whatever, Tiger Woods is the same thing. And he doesn't express his political views. He says, these are my own. They're private. They're to myself. And he's getting harassed for not being an influential individual. He could influence people. The media wants to court these people to their side to fight their quote-unquote fight and agenda. And Stephen A. Smith, who is one of those people, by the way, he is one of those people who wants to pull people to the left. You were right about that. And I've heard him, his comments and his politics and whatever, and excusing LeBron and excusing the NBA because that's what pays his bills and the NFL and all these guys. But yet it's fascinating that how many, if we turned off and not, turned off the TV and we ignored social media, you block those messaging. I don't want to hear about LeBron and his love affair for Hillary Clinton. I ignore it.
Listen, any guy, and let's go back to Stephen A. Smith and let's wrap it up. Any guy that is a reoccurring role on General Hospital, I just can't give any credit.
Oh my God. How low can you go? How low can you go? All right, ladies and gentlemen, Stuart crossed the line yet again into the silliness that it is.
Well, it's true. He's been a reoccurring role.
Ladies and gentlemen,
on 32 references.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stuart Brisgell has once again crossed the line into the silliness. With this, we're going to wrap up another week, Monday of the Rant Network. And while Stuart is going to go deal with his text messages and phone that is blowing up here, we're going to wish you guys a really good week. As you can see, it's not always about, ripping apart the Democratic Party and liberals and what have you. But stay tuned to Wednesday. We might take shots this week. It's looking really good, like it could be one of those weeks. On that note, Stuart, let us say goodbye to our friends around the world.
You know what, everybody? Goodbye to all of you, no matter where you are at any part of the world, because David said so.